What's the biggest hole on the Charlotte Hornets roster? We discuss that and figure out if there's going to be a change in the Hornets offensive philosophy. We have a Sicko Satchel question to get to, and it's not number one, it's not zero. We're doing who wore it best 00 because there are no rules and we just get to pick our spots. We get to cherry pick all of the jersey numbers that we want to, with us dwindling down in who wore it best. That's all today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube, where if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see that.
Did it again.
We're wearing the same color shirt. It's happened a lot. It is a little freaky. I needed a Charlotte 49ers green Charlotte hoodie, and so I got one. Doug, I don't think you're wearing a green polo because of the Charlotte 49ers, but you're wearing a green polo nonetheless.
I'm wearing a green polo because, I don't have many pants or shorts that I can wear green polos with. A lot of my stuff is blue tinted or other colors tinted. And so I had a chance to wear my gray pants, and so I said I'm going to wear the green top.
Yeah.
And here you are, matching again.
Green is a color that I had to force myself to wear outside of Charlotte's gear, but when I did it, I was glad that I did it. Like, green, underrated clothing color is what I would say. That's Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Also, check out his new show, the show that he's helping produce. No, the show's not overrated. Every Hornets box score isn't overrated. Are you asking if I have an overrated clothing color?
Yes.
Overrated? I like grays. It's probably a little overrated. A lot of shirts out there are gray. I wear a lot, but I think it's probably overrated. Anyways, Yahoo Sports Daily. Go check that out. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz doing some great stuff over there. And I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. And last but not least, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We appreciate them as always. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Okay, let's go to ESPN.com, where they have the biggest hole on every team's roster listed, and it's an article written by Kevin Pelton. Here's what Kevin Pelton has to say about the Charlotte Hornets' biggest hole on the roster. Surprise, it's starting center. But he's surprisingly complimentary about the centers on this team. Here's what he says. Having traded Mark Williams to the Phoenix Suns, the Hornets are likely counting on either second-round pick Ryan Kalkbrenner or Moussa Diabaté to step into a starting role. Signed on a two-way contract last summer, Diabaté quietly dominated the offensive glass while shooting 60%, and Kalkbrenner was highly productive at Creighton. Still, both look better suited for limited roles. Again, that written by Kevin Pelton of ESPN.com. I don't know if there's another answer here. Perhaps you could say a certain skill set is a missing portion, the biggest missing portion on this roster, but the answer has to be starting center, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it is the weakest position. There's just no debating it talent-wise. Although I will say that I think they are at least in a stronger position tactically at the center position without Mark Williams. And the reason that I say that is because I think fans and the coaching staff had expectations of what Mark Williams was and what he should focus on. And I don't think those aligned with who he actually was and what he wanted to focus on. You're in a much better position just tactically in terms of being able to counter someone's weaknesses if you can all agree on what those weaknesses are and you know what to expect game to game. There was an inconsistency issue. And I don't, say what you want about Mason Plumlee. Kalkbrenner's kind of a blank slate right now. We don't, although he played, many years of college, so there's a lot of tape on him. But I think they'll be a little bit more consistent in terms of what you want to get out of them. Again, the range of talent in terms of what Mark Williams could do, and we saw the double-double numbers that he could put up. The range of talent is not going, it's going to shrink, but I think tactically they can do a little bit better without him, but they're not going, I mean, obviously they need to upgrade the position in the future.
Yeah, it has to be starting center. They signed all the guards in the world, and we liked what they did this offseason, even if they did trade their starting center from a year ago. And they got rid of their other center in Yusuf Nurkic, who wanted more minutes. And when I asked him what he cares about most in the NBA, he said it's probably minutes. It's a nuanced answer, but he said at the podium, it's probably minutes. Wasn't going to get it here. It felt like he might, but I guess Charles Lee was unwilling to. The Hornets trade him for a first-round pick and whatever, or not a first-round pick, but he's gone from the team. So what you have now is a team that has Moussa Diabaté and Ryan Kalkbrenner and Mason Plumlee. That's your starting center rotation. Not great, Bob. Josh Lloyd of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast called it, maybe outside of Boston, the worst center rotation in the league. Here's what I would say. I'm interested to see the identity change offensively with this team, because you're going to be so much smaller now unless you put Kalkbrenner out there on the floor, but I don't think he's ready for those types of minutes. At least he didn't show that in Summer League. So if you look at transition stats from last year for this Hornet squad, they were pretty bad in it. They were 29th in offensive rating. They were 27th in net rating. There are a bunch of different stats, not only on NBA.com to point to how bad they were, but also on cleaning the glass, which negates garbage time. They were dead last in points added per 100 possessions. They were 29th in percent of possessions that started in transition. And Doug, they were dead last in transition efficiency. They were all bad. In fact, in that transition efficiency stat that I just mentioned, they were a whole 5 points separated from the second to last place team. That was Portland. The difference between Charlotte and Portland is the same as the difference between Portland at 29 and Golden State at 25. All that to say, to put it simply, the Hornets were bad in transition last year. Really, really terrible. Here's what's interesting to me. We get to Moussa Diabaté, and then you look at Moussa Diabaté, what he did on the Moussa. When you get to Moussa Diabaté and what he did on this team last year, when he was on the court, they were just outrunning a lot more. He has a high steal percentage. I think that's going to help. He posted one of the highest steal percentages at center in the league. That was actually an 18 rank for, when the team was able to get to a transition play off of steals. The Hornets were significantly faster with him. I think the pace has to improve. I think the efficiency will improve, especially with Yusuf Nurkic, who just was a bogged down, like he's not running. Mark Williams, we wanted to run. That was a strength of his, yet he just didn't do it. So, man, I think this thing just might flip on its head, Doug. Are we going to get to bottom 25 to dead last in some categories to like a top 10 pace team? If you do, I think that can really help you out offensively and just overall this year.
Yeah, to be a high-paced team, a couple of things have to happen. One, you have to turn the other team over. You just mentioned Moussa's stats there. He's going to help that. You also have to have bigs that can move the basketball very quickly or dribble it. I mean, that's ideal, and that's what you're seeing across the league. These guys that are coming in at 7 foot tall, and they can dribble, they can get it to half court and then move it from there. It's got to be first guy that has the ball can't waste precious seconds moving it, finding a guard. And I think that's what, Mark Williams could run if he didn't have the ball, but he had the ball a lot because he was tall and he got a lot of rebounds. So I honestly, I think one adjustment they can make is to whisper in LaMelo's ear, hey, rebound like you used to when you were a rookie and a sophomore. Because then if the ball is already in LaMelo's hands, if he is stealing, this is why no one cared when Russell Westbrook was doing his triple-double thing back when he was, MVP caliber. He would steal rebounds from bigs all the time. And maybe the bigs cared, but the team didn't care because it got them into transition as quickly as possible when Russell had the ball in his hands. And I think there's a little bit of Colin Sexton in there too. Like if he can steal some rebounds and then immediately get the team into transition, it requires multiple ball handlers. To me, their lack of pace has not been a result of them not wanting to get into pace. Also, bad defense hurts you because if you can't force misses, you have a difficult time getting into transition. So there has to be a little bit of that too. But all of those things you kind of throw in a bucket and say, if you want to be faster, you got to have bigs that move the ball. Mason Plumlee is going to help with that a ton. That guy loves to move the ball in transition. Again, love him or hate him, that's what he does. And so you got to have bigs that can move the ball, guards that can steal rebounds and move the ball, get a few stops, and be committed to it.
Yeah, I think that's the way they were leaning. Ryan Kalkbrenner, I can't imagine helps all that much, even though I think he's willing to run, but he's not going to help all that much. I think it's really leaning into what Moussa and Mason are able to do, even though the NBA insiders will tell you that the Hornets absolutely love Kalkbrenner and everything that he can do. Again, we can't forget that there were 4 selections in the draft, and he was the 4th. He was dead last. So if they loved him enough, maybe they'd take him at 29 to ensure that he's there. Maybe they take him at 33. They had back-to-back picks, but, he was still dead last. I think my point on this, too, is with all the guards, that's going to help just because you have faster players. You mentioned the ball handlers. One thing is still true. You have LaMelo Ball, which makes it particularly interesting as to why you've been so bad in transition the last couple of years. I think it really does stem from your center position and just not getting out and running at all. And one, because LaMelo's been injured. Like that's the biggest key, is that LaMelo's been injured and hasn't played nearly as many games. When he's not out there, that's when you see the Hornets rank so low. He still has among the bigger impacts at pace by one individual player in the NBA as much as anybody in the association. It's LaMelo, and pick one of the higher percentiles. Like, he affects pace that much. So if LaMelo can reach the 50, 65 game threshold with a more mobile big, Brandon Miller loves getting out in the open court, man. Like, this is the way. I think this is the way, and I really hope that Charles Lee taps in to what he did in Milwaukee as an assistant coach, where they were just top 10, top 5, top 1 in pace for like 6 years, rather than continuing the Boston thing where they just don't get out and transition all that often. They're a bottom 5 pace team. Tap it back into Milwaukee with this roster, not so much Boston, and try to do the whole, like, Mark Williams, protect the rim, shoot a bunch of threes, pick and roll to death. Like, let's get the ball popping a little bit, and I'd love to see it. We'll see if we
just
do.
One last thing. Like, when you dig into the stats, the problem was not only that the Charlotte Hornets were not running, and you may have said this and I wasn't listening, and I apologize, but I just need to make this point in case you didn't make it. Which is that they were so ineffective when they got into transition.
Yeah, their efficiency
was bad. Yeah, they were bad. And I think, to me, part of that is, I think, lack of high flyers, lack of good passers, lack of shooters. Like, all of that just makes you more predictable in transition, where defenses can adjust more quickly when there are less threats on the floor to score and less threats to move the basketball, just less vision on the floor. It's just going to make you more predictable, and that's what the Charlotte Hornets were in transition.
Brandon Miller will help with the efficiency a lot. Trey Mann, while the volume is weirdly down when Trey Mann, 2 years ago, the volume wasn't nearly as much down, but he's going to help a lot in efficiency. I think that was an overlooked aspect to the injuries they did suffer. If you're just talking about overall talent, it's like we didn't really need to specify what the Hornets were hurting in, because the answer was all of it. When you lose all of your players, they just are a lot worse of a basketball team. That's just true. But then when you really dig into what factors were really hurt with all the injuries they suffered, transition really took a hit. And it starts with LaMelo, who is the head of the snake, maybe even the first 40% of the snake. And then a significant chunk is Brandon Miller. Miles Bridges helps a little bit. Trey Mann helps with efficiency. Moussa's not guaranteed to help with efficiency. I think he will be better, just because I think he'll be a better basketball player. But he's going to help with volume, man. And that matters. The volume 100% matters. Interesting stuff on the way. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
We'll finish some of those thoughts, plus answer a Sicko Satchel question, and we still have to decide who wore it best. 00, goose eggs. We're all too familiar with them in the win column. Still coming up next, LOH. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's good news for me with Olivia getting bit by the FanDuel bug. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. And it's quick, easy. It's the best way to add a little more energy into your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Finishing thoughts on the offensive identity. Do you think we see that dramatic of a change? Because it would be, right? It would be dramatic, but also I think it's this team calls for it, right? You would hope that you see a monster shift in what are supposed to be easy buckets, and now you seem to have the personnel to go get said easy buckets, and I'm hoping they lean more into that.
Well, that's my thought on an offensive identity, is that they should establish one. It sounds nice. They should get one.
Yeah.
They have to find a way to play. And even if it's not the way they're going to play that will eventually launch them into a playoff series or a playoff series win, I think what's really going to be important, if they stay healthy, is to establish a way like this is how we're going to play, and then get to that consistently by the middle of the season. And so if that means playing fast, that means playing fast. You don't necessarily have to play fast. In fact, some of the best teams in the league do not play very fast, but those tend to have transcendent players like Giannis Antetokounmpo, transcendent half-court players like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic and other players like that. The Hornets don't necessarily have that. So you would think just how they're built, they are going to play fast, but they have to get to an identity. And I think it's going to, we've gotten hints of it in terms of the volume of three-point shots that we saw them take early in the season last season. I think you're going to see more of that and maybe more playing fast, but you've got to establish some kind of identity. And then in terms of defensively, you've just got to show some want to. I don't think they have the personnel to really establish what Hornets defense means. It's just got to mean trying hard all the time.
Yeah, can you be disruptive on the perimeter is probably your best hope, and can Moussa just pop away a few post-entry passes and just make it hell? Like bleep
hole defense.
Yeah, especially when you're the center. Can you just make life hard on the opposing center crossing the half-court line? Just get in his body a little bit and frustrate him. That's if you do that and just you're a constant pest, and we know he has the energy for it. So if you're not, he's not bad at blocking shots. It's actually a misnomer. He's about average at blocking shots, but just be a damn nuisance. As soon as your guy crosses the half court line, just give him like a little body check, just a little one, just a little taparoo. The other thing here, I was listening to Zach Lopod with Mo Dakhil, and they were going back and forth on the Pacers a little bit. And Zach Lowe mentioned, like in some kind of conference, how teams continue to just be enthralled with the Pacers run last year. We thought we were, as NBA fans, oh my God, this is amazing. How are they doing it? Zach mentioned it can't be, he said this, it cannot be overstated how much the league is still talking about how Rick Carlisle was able to accomplish what the Pacers did under that system. That's what Zach was mentioning. And I keep going back into leaning into the weird. If you have this oddity about your team, then embrace the hell out of it. And we are odd in Charlotte. And they talked about just the pop, move the basketball, don't hold on to it too long. Is it because Tyrese is the guy that makes all that go? Like, we got some similarities in that regard. We don't have the defensive similarities. We don't have a Nesmith. We don't have a Miles Turner that was on that team. The defensive stuff, I don't think there are a lot of things you can compare. Offensively, Doug, I do. I think there are some stuff that you can lean into. So you're not going to go on a finals run, but can you go on some fun run? Just like a 5K fun run, a little turkey trot in November. Give me something of a fun run here. I don't need a finals run. I just need a fun run.
Well, so you're right. I mean, they don't have the same defensive tools. And by the way, that look that you are reacting to that I gave was not to the take from the Zach Lowe show. It was your pronunciation of Rick Carlisle's name. You gave him a Carlisle. It was
Rick Carlisle.
Yeah, you went Carlisle, but it was like a Carlisle.
Carlisle. Yeah. Okay. Inflections was different there. Look, I'm trying to avoid listener fatigue. I'm trying to MF doom it, man. I'll put different emphases on the syllables to make sure that everybody's still paying attention.
You're dropping Rick Carlisle bars on this show, and I love it. So one of the things that we saw from Indiana last season and maybe the season before that is they were not afraid to junk it up on defense in every single way possible, including putting half court, full court pressure on teams. It was them and the Kings, I think. There were the two teams that were like way outlier teams in terms of the amount of pressure. And it's like, can you get the Hornets to commit to that? Can you say, hey, we're going to junk it up. We're going to go switch heavy. We're going to get aggressive on help side. We're going to trap. We're going to double. We're just going to get insane out there. And it might cost, we might give up some 131-point nights. And that's where the shooting comes in. We've added a bunch of shooting. So can all of that sort of counteract and say, hey, we now want to be one of the chaos teams in the NBA where you look at the personnel and you say, man, that doesn't look like an elite defensive team, but they junk it up just enough to be unpredictable, and they can score enough on the nights where they get figured out and they get taken advantage of by better offensive teams. That's what you're trying. I think that's what you would want to establish.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly what you would want to do, and I'm hoping the Hornets will do it, and we'll have some fun. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
Sicko Satchel questions. Who wore it best? 00. We'll get to all of that coming up next. Last segment, LOH. Before we do, I want to tell you this episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable the 5-hour shots are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost exactly when you need it. And enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at www.5hourenergy.com, or you can try it at Amazon today. More Locked On Hornets ahead. I wanted to basketball it up the first two segments, so
that was a lot of ball. I'm sweating. That was a lot of ball talk.
Me too. Whew, I don't know if it's I should not be this out of breath just talking about basketball rather than playing it, but here I am. Welcome to your 30s. Sicko Satchel time. What you got for me, Doug?
All right, let's pull up the old Sicko Satchel. By the way, if you want to put your question in the Sicko Satchel, it's really easy. Just go to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Hornets. Sign up if you've never signed up before. It's a 14-day free trial, and you get access to all my depraved Hornets thoughts. Text me directly at the subtext, joinsubtext.com/Locked On Hornets. This one is from our good friend, Schumann of the 22nd Mullins Regiment, who says, after watching the Hornets reel featuring Kai Cenat, thank you, Rick Carlisle, Kai Cenat, dapping up Hugo, do you think this will move the needle for the Hornets' presence in the zeitgeist?
Oh, my God.
We tried our Feastables collab with Mr. Beast. You remember that?
I sure do, yeah.
I tried one of those. It was really good.
How about the D's Nuts flavor that the Hornets PR staff was a little embarrassed by once we announced the Mr. Beast jersey patch? Yeah, that was an actual thing.
Got to embargo the D's Nuts.
Yeah, I'm trying to take it all away.
All right, we tried our Feastables collab with Mr. Beast, and although my kids got a few chocolate bars tossed their way, that didn't really make any waves. It didn't help that Jimmy never came to games during that season either. I agree with Doug that nostalgia is not the move. So do you think that getting these personalities will benefit our organization? Do you have any other ideas?
Oh, well, the joke here is to win basketball games. That's it, what everybody will say. Do I think that Kai Cenat is going to help a little bit? It's kind of leaning into the idea of what Adam Silver was talking about with highlights and just embracing new age media. Kai Cenat, one of the more popular streamers in the game. I know very little about him, but I would recognize him for sure. I know who he is. I know that LaMelo has been featured on his streaming for, I don't know, handful, 10, 15 times. I think they both game with one another. I'm sure some younger people in the audience are laughing hysterically at me for how much I'm botching this, but that's as far as I understand it. I think it probably will help a little with the younger generation, but only in the sense that I think they already love LaMelo for having a presence on that stream. And so I'm not sure if Hugo the Hornet popping up on Kai Cenat's streaming channel is going to do all that much. I think LaMelo being featured enough and like having a back and forth with that level of celebrity, which is pretty damn big. I think it's LaMelo that might be the one bringing in all the fans, especially when you consider his popularity. Hello, fan vote in the All-Star game. I think it's probably more so LaMelo doing that.
Yeah, there probably was a very tight window for the Hornets to fuse themselves onto the popularity of LaMelo Ball. Had LaMelo stayed healthy and the Hornets had won playoff series and become a factor in the Eastern Conference, I think they could have fused to each other and maybe wrenched themselves into some kind of zeitgeist. But that stuff, man, that's ephemeral. It's funny. You can't, like, why were the Hornets so popular in the 90s? It was the colors, it was the draft picks, it was, knocking it out of the park with Grandmama and that whole campaign. It was Muggsy and everyone wanting to cheer for the little guy. Like, there were all of these things. And by the way, shepherded by George Shinn, who had very little idea of what he was doing. A lot of this stuff, again, just kind of happened to them. Because I was watching, I just went on this, like, I think we were talking about the dunk contest, so I just went and like pulled up all of the Hornets dunk contest participants, and I was just watching them all. And man, I was watching LJ's, and LJ, like, everything just looked so cool. And I thought, yes, in the 90s, that was cool. The purple and teal means a lot to us now, but those colors are not, again, for nostalgia purposes, they're nice, but they're not in right now. So I don't think there's anything they can do. I think, honestly, winning basketball is not the right answer either. It's not the wrong answer, but it's not the right answer because the Spurs, as an organization, they've done all the winning you could do. Are they a cool team? No, of course not. Yeah, they're not a cool team.
I think there's still a lot of reach, though. I think even overseas, I think because they have such a foundation of 5 championships, I think that is enough to still have a lot of reach. That's fine,
but they're not culturally relevant in the same way that the Hornets were in the 90s. In terms of, again, I'm separating, like, people who know ball will say, yeah, Spurs all time, great front office talent, great talent, championships, love it. Culturally, not cool.
Okay. What's the next Sicko Satchel question?
I want to shout out my guy who I didn't have the name, but it's Roger of the 23rd Trey Man Division, aka the Dose Trey in the Sicko Brigade, who helped us get beyond number 3 and who wore it best. Roger Walker, thanks you for sure.
I thank you very much. I mean, you're one of the more important people in my life right now, Roger. Thank you for making sure that we got to number 3. Shout out to you.
Letter from the front lines. We've been asking for these. This is when your Hornets sickness goes beyond your personal living room where you watch Hornets games, and it starts to infect your real life encounters that you may have, things you may drop into conversations, Briante Weber musings that somehow come up over a dinner party. Letters from the front lines. This is Hallie of the 12th Dwight Howard Division, who relays this. I work at a bookstore and was just chatting with a customer who mentioned the fallout of Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. So I mentioned that I'm a Hornets fan, and she said she used to work Hornets games as a stage manager and wanted to get married at a game, but her fiance said no, and now they're divorced.
Yeah, coincidence? Okay.
Anyway, always excited to get to chat about basketball at my job, and a bigger bonus when I meet Hornets fans.
That's it. I'm trying to think of what Olivia would do if I pitched the idea of getting married at a Hornets game, and how quickly that relationship would end once I dug my feet in saying, we have to do this at Spectrum Center. We wouldn't get divorced because we wouldn't get married in the first place as soon as I pitched that, but I love the story nonetheless.
Now, how about if you got married during a baby race? I mean, you're really just like plotting out the rest of your life right there. I mean, you're just zooming into the future.
Your baby has to be named Bismack. You just have to name some sick, obscure name. Hugo doesn't even cut it. You have to name your baby Briante. Or look, how about this? Okay. let's say you have the baby 9 months later, right after midnight. Miracle After Midnight,
Miracle
part 3.
After Midnight. That's
There you
perfect. What if now? Who would you? Now this is a good question. Off of this, if you were to get married at a Hornets game, which halftime act would you most want to officiate your wedding? So let me just throw a couple. While you get your brain moving, let me throw a couple of examples that I can think of off the top of the dome. Obviously, number one that we're all thinking right now, Red Panda. Although Red Panda would be moving around a lot, I don't know if that would work. There's the guy that stacks the chairs.
Yeah.
There's the a guy that has the little dog. I don't even know what breed of dog it is, maybe Chihuahua, but it's a tiny little dog, and the dog does tricks, and the human does some tricks. There's the person that paints, and you don't know what the painting's going to be, and you're like, what's the painting going to be? And then at the end, they turn the painting around and say, it was Abraham Lincoln. I had no idea.
Quick change. That duo.
Quick change.
I could have quick change. That would be fun. For some, I don't know who I want officiating it. I think the person with the dog, by the way, it's probably an All-American dog, which is just a way of saying it's got a lot of breeds in it. So an All-American dog is probably what that one is. That would be the person I want officiating. Here's the idea, though. What I would really want is for somebody to bring the Frisbee catching border collie and have that person throw the bouquet and just have the border collie catch a couple of them, just catch some flowers here and there. So I just want the border collie involved, and that would make it happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, if the border collie actually officiated the wedding, I'm not sure that it would be official. I think you could easily get that annulled, and that may work in your favor. You may avoid the divorce altogether. You could just get it annulled and say, this didn't count. A border collie barked our vows.
Yeah, sir, a paw print does not count as a signature as a witness. I'm not sure why you thought that was okay. You're not married. I apologize. I think that's the answer, though. I just wanted to throw the bouquet and Miracle After Midnight and all of it. Yeah, I don't know if it'll work, though. I don't know if she'll go for any of those ideas, so maybe it just doesn't happen at the Spectrum Center. Okay, we're not going to get to who wore it best, but you know what?
Oh,
you know what?
Okay.
I'm not tripping off of only one episode, and this one was my fault anyway because I went over on the first A block segment and wanted to talk more about it in the B segment. So
too much ball,
man. It's almost here. Can
I just give a roadmap for how we're going to do this? Who wore it best? We've gone through. We're almost done, folks. We've gone through each number that Hornets players have worn over the history of the franchise, starting with number 98. And we've got 3 left. We've got the number 1, the number 0, and the number 00. Number 00, I think, is really easy, so we'll get to that next. I want to save one for last, though, because it's Muggsy, it's Barron, it's Stack Jack, it's 1 year of Kemba Walker, it's whatever we've got left of LaMelo Ball. This is a really important decision that we have to make. Number 1, I want to do it last.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. So I allow it. You would bulldoze my thoughts on how we should attack who wore it best anyway, but I'll just kid myself and say I'll allow it, and I'm giving you permission to construct it this way. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Yahoo Sports Daily with Jason Fitz and Caroline Fitton. Doug is producing all of them, baby. He's got all of those episodes. He's got his thumbprints. He's got his paw prints all over those episodes, so you go check it out. Walker Mail, WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio, 92.7 FM. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.